Let me welcome you today to the 83rd edition of Thursday Musings. The housekeeping rules are very simple. Everyone is on mute mode. Only the panelists can unmute themselves. The questions should be put in the chat box. Moderators will take it up to the presenter. So let me start with the session, Balancing Academics with Practice of Psychiatry. Next slide, please. I'm handing over the session to the chairman, Professor Dr. Tufan Pati, sir. Sir, over to you. Sir, please unmute.
Yes. Thank you, Alim. So we have got with us two vibrant moderators, Dr. Alim Siddiqui and Dr. Amrit Patajoshi, professors of psychiatry. And they are quite well known. So without going to the details, I would like to skip over to the CV of the chairpersons of this meeting, because they are quite well known, they're regulars, and they have got immense laurels to their credit, which everybody knows. Next slide, please. Dr. Mohan Isaac is a clinical professor of psychiatry at the University of Western Australia, Perth, Australia. He is a consultant psychiatrist, pre-mental hospital, pre-mental Australia. He had been professor and head of the Department of Psychiatry in Mans, Bangalore, professor staff division of mental health, WHO Geneva, and president of Medico-Pastoral Association, Bangalore. And he is a frequent visitor to Thursday Musings. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Dr. Mohan. And we have with us my very, very, very dear, close, dear friend, Dr. Bihang Bhaiya, with whom I have been associated with my young days as a senior, but he has been quite inspiring. We have with us the inspiring Dr. Bihang Bhaiya, International Distinguished Fellow, American Psychiatric Association, Professor Emeritus of Psychiatry, Dr. R.N. Cooper Municipal General Hospital and HPT Medical College, Mumbai, Chairman of CME IPS, Founder, HOD Department of Psychological Medicine in Dr. R.N. Cooper Hospital, Mumbai, former Professor of Psychiatry, Cooper Hospital and St. Gauri Shankar Medical College, Mumbai, Consultant Psychiatrist, Beach Candy and Lilavat Hospitals, Mumbai, Member National Advisory Board, Indian Association of Private Psychiatry, former International Membership Committee, American Psychiatric Association, Life Fellow of the Indian Psychiatric Society, Life Fellow of the Association of Private Psychiatry, former Chairman Psychopharmacology Section, Indian Psychiatric Society, former Chairman CME Committee of Indian Psychiatric Society, former Chairman CME Committee of IAPP, member Positive Psychiatry Section, World Psychiatric Association, founder Managing Trustee and CEO of Dr. N.S. Bhaiya Foundation, Mumbai, past Secretary, Indian Psychiatric Society, several publications, indexed medical journals and chapters and texts and monographs. So this is not the end, but the time is set. And with this, I present with you Dr. Bihang Bhaiya and Dr. Mohan Isaac, the chairpersons of this evening, in which we are going to have our 83rd edition of Thursday Musings with none other than Dr. Shiv Gautam, Professor Emeritus, as the speaker. Over to the chairperson. The rest of the meeting is at your command.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tufan Pati. It's a great honor to co-chair this meeting with Dr. Bihang Bhaiya. And the speaker of this meeting is Dr. Shiv Gautam. Last evening, Bihang and I had a little discussion over the WhatsApp, and we had sort of agreed, since both of us know Shiv Gautam very well, and for a long time, last 30 or 40 years, almost from our residency days, we decided, I know that the practice in the Thursday Musing is one of the chairpersons introduces the speaker and the other chairperson introduces the topic. So we had sort of agreed that Bihang will introduce Shiv Gautam and I will introduce the topic. So may I request Bihang to introduce Shiv Gautam? Bihang?
Sir, thank you very much. It's indeed an honor to co-chair this session with you, sir. And the moment I was told that you and I are co-chairing the session, a whole lot of nostalgia flooded my brain and my mind. And I'm not going to go into the details of all those pleasant days that we spent under your shadow coming to NIMHANS to learn newer techniques. Can I have Dr. Shiv Gautam's slide, please? So Shiv and I have known each other since we virtually began our careers together. And we used to attend NSIPs as young residents and have a lot of fun. His CV is right out here, and I'm not read all these lines because that's not how I know Shiv. I know Shiv as Shiv. And the special thing I know about him is that he's a true COVID warrior. It's his strength and his force of pleasure in life and that focus in the targets that he wants to achieve in life that saw him through rather critical period. And not just me and Neela, that's Mrs. Vaya, but our entire family, my children, are so thankful that Shiv fought this out, and we wish him all the best. Shiv Gautam has been a great academician. He has made a name for himself. He brought Rajasthan psychiatry onto an international forum. He was one of the pioneers of British Indian Psychiatrists Association and American Indian Psychiatrists Association forming close ties with the Indian Psychiatric Society. His publications are far too many for me to enlist. And the amount of social recognition that he has had, right? For the last 20 years, I think, every single important social organization neatly lined itself up to present Dr. Shiv Gautam with the honors and the recognition that he so richly deserves. For me to introduce Shiv Gautam is to like trying to show a candle to the sun. And I don't think I'm capable of doing that. Shiv, I wish you a great session ahead, and hope we meet up soon. Dr. Mohan? Unmute yourself, please, sir. Sir, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you, Vihang. That was an excellent introduction of a great star of Indian psychiatry, Shiv Gautam. I can also claim to have known him from the time he joined NIMHANS for his DPM and MD courses. I was 1 year his senior. He has already been introduced. Now, I would want to compliment the organizers of this Thursday musings. Firstly, for this is the 83rd session. I don't think many other programs which started during the COVID of this virtual nature, educational program, etc., started by various organizations, IPS Center, IPS North Zone, South Zone. None of them have gone on to 83rd session. I'm delighted that this is the 83rd session. Not too long we will have the 100th session. So I want to congratulate them. I want to also congratulate them for choosing the right kind of topics. That, of course, you can look into a topic bank and you will get topics. But to find the most suitable person for the topic, I think that requires a little skill. You have to scout around, you have to look around, you have to talk to them, get their consent. And today's topic is balancing academics with clinical practice. Of course, you can shortlist a list of people in India, but foremost in that list would be Dr. Gautam. Now, many people, I mean, especially people of our age, our background, I mean, I'm referring to Shiv Gautam, Vihang, not many other people in the audience would be. I can, of course, reveal myself that I am a septuagenarian. For those who don't know what septuagenarian means, you have crossed 70 years. I don't want to speak for others, but what I wanted to say was when you reach this, you realize, when you look back, you realize that life itself is a balancing act. You have to balance so many things. You have to balance your work, you have to balance your health, you have to balance your family, your wife, your parents, your children. And the better balance that you are able to achieve of various things, maybe life is has a better quality. So balancing many things in life is a task that we are all sort of, expected to do. But we are not talking today about that kind of balance. It's a refined topic. How do you balance academics and practice? Of course, all of us do. Even clinicians are expected to do a certain amount of, even if you're the big professor or the dean of the medical school, you are supposed to not lose touch with your clinical work. You are supposed to take your rounds. You are supposed to directly see patients. You are supposed to directly supervise students, etc. But how do you, I mean, some people are blessed with the opportunity to have academics, teaching, research grants, and also clinical practice. Not many people may have that good fortune. But how do you achieve this? Academics and clinical practice. And that is the topic today. And it's my great pleasure to invite Shiv Gautam, none other than somebody like Shiv Gautam, who trained in Nimans, MD, DPM, went on to pick one of the, Bihang was already mentioned, Rajasthan psychiatry, brought it up to national, international standard. And after his retirement, he is now still directing a big institute. So it is my great pleasure to request Gautam to speak. Please welcome Dr. Shiv Gautam to give his Thursday musings address. Over to you, Shiv Gautam.
Sir, please unmute.
Yes, have you have unmuted me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you, Shiv.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, you have got any slide to share?
Yes, I'm sharing my slideshow. इसको इतने कर दो.
Full screen कर दे बस.
Full screen कर दूं?
हाँ जी.
Okay. ये वाला है. Slideshow.
एकदम नीचे वो जो
हाँ.
राइट में 3 है ना, 68% लिखा है, उसके बगल में.
कर रहा हूँ, वही कर रहा हूँ. यही है ना. नहीं, इसको कर दो ना, slideshow. Well, at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of Thursday Musings for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. Some points which are not from the textbooks, but they are from Book of Life. I have great pleasure that Dr. Mohan Isaac and Dr. Vihang Bhaiya both are sharing this session. When I entered Nimhans in 1975, Dr. Mohan Isaac was the one who welcomed me. He was a year senior to me. And when we joined, it was All India Institute of Mental Health. And during our DPM period, it became National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. And we were literally watching that great moment when Dr. Karan Singh declared it as health minister. I still remember. I met Vihang in 1977 in Pune conference. And since then, it has been growing together. Thank you, Vihang, for being very courteous. I think you have been extra generous in introducing me. Thank you very much. Now I would like to come to the topic. One of my patients' father in the OPD told me, Doctor साहब, मैंने अपने बेटे से कहा डॉक्टर मत बनना, नहीं चली तो रोटी नहीं मिलेगी और चल गई तो भी रोटी नहीं मिलेगी. Doctor, I told my son, don't become a doctor. If you are not successful, you will not get bread. And if you are successful, you will have no time to eat. So that is what I learned from my chamber, from one of the father of my patients, and I still remember that. It is true that a busy practitioner has no time for himself, and one who is not busy has time and time, but he doesn't have the amenities. It is said that a good manager is one who can manage everything. In present era, a psychiatrist has to assume multiple roles. he is a healer, he is a doctor, he is a teacher or trainer, because even a general practitioner, practicing psychiatrist, has to train the community to remove stigma and whatnot. We will talk about it later. A social activist, a practitioner, a psychotherapist, and a motivator. One can be successful if justice is done to these multiple roles. In order to do this, it is needless to say that a sound knowledge base is required so that the psychiatrist himself or herself is empowered. All of us are graduates in medicine. We enter medical school or college through the same competitive exams, similar competitions for postgraduate studies. We read similar books and journals and have similar examinations to qualify the postgraduate studies. Question is, what is that which makes some of us very successful practitioners of psychiatry, some moderately successful, and others I have seen in my life, frustrated ones? Answer to this question is balancing academics to the practice of psychiatry. Over the ages, it has been observed that clinicians who excel in practice also have a sound academic background and knowledge base. Some studies have shown higher levels of job burden and stress among the psychiatry residents.
Sir, the slides are not moving here.
Slides are not reaching you?
Not moving. Only the first slide is there till now.
Now?
Boss, you'll have to go right down. You know, the last bar that you see, 1 of 28, then it says technique. Go to the other end. And there are 3 small, there is that 68%. Before that, there is that full screen that is being, click on that.
One second.
एकदम नीचे जाओ बस. या स्लाइड शो करो. अभी आपने जहां क्लिक किया ना, रिज्यूम स्लाइड शो करो.
I think that is not visible here. Maybe with sir's computer it is visible.
In my computer it is visible.
Because sir is reading from his slides.
तो नीचे रिज्यूम स्लाइड शो है ना, वहां पे क्लिक करो बस.
Mute.
नहीं तो एकदम नीचे जाओ. एकदम नीचे स्लाइड 1 of 28 लिखा है ना, एकदम बार के ऊपर, एकदम the bottom bar.
I'll take the help of my granddaughter maybe.
Yeah, that that's the best thing to do. उनको फुल स्क्रीन करने को कहो.
इसकी स्लाइड मूव नहीं हो रही है.
फुल स्क्रीन करने को कहो ना बस. फुल स्क्रीन.
I think there is sometimes a problem ki on the presenter side it will show a full screen, but here it will only show the skeleton frame.
Can we request the host to play the slides?
हाँ, अभी उसके पास में आ जाओ, उसके और लेफ्ट में आ जाओ. नहीं, वो वैसे ही रहने दो. वो 68 इस तरह. हाँ, उसके और तरफ लेफ्ट आ जाओ, और लेफ्ट आ जाओ. नहीं बॉस, नहीं ऐसा नहीं. वो 68% लिखा है ना, उसके बगल में जो पूरा स्क्रीन दिखाई दे रहा है, अभी 400% हो गया. वो नहीं, आप राइट जा रहे हो, आप लेफ्ट में आओ. लेफ्ट की तरफ आओ. लेफ्ट. नो, डोंट टच दैट. कम लेफ्ट. अभी भी लेफ्ट आ जाओ. वो 19 अभी भी लेफ्ट नहीं, नीचे 390 के बगल वाला जो फुल 3 दिखाई दे रहा है ना, 390 के बगल में अभी और लेफ्ट आ जाओ. और लेफ्ट
390 के लेफ्ट में एक वाइन ग्लास का अपीयरेंस है. एक वाइन ग्लास है.
हाँ, वो वाइन ग्लास दिखाई दे रहा है, उसके ऊपर क्लिक करो.
इस पर
नहीं, और लेफ्ट आ जाओ. और लेफ्ट आ जाओ.
नीचे.
इसको ऐसा कर, इसको वापस बन जा।
नहीं तो फिर एकदम ऊपर पावर पॉइंट का जो आता है वहां पे फुल स्क्रीन आएगा। व्यू करो, व्यू पे क्लिक करोगे तो फुल स्क्रीन आएगा।
ये क्या रहा है? सेटअप प्रोफेशनल।
Actually, I think they have clicked from current slide, but the slideshow is not visible.
या सो एकदम ऊपर
नहीं, they have clicked slideshow, but it is not moving. Sir, जो exit the slideshow.
नहीं, आप वो स्लाइड के बाहर क्लिक कीजिए, वो टेक्स्ट सिलेक्ट हुआ है उसको।
स्लाइड शो ये रहा ना, resume the slide show.
यस,
हाँ,
Can you see it now?
लेट्स सी, इट इज स्टिल गोइंग राउंड एंड राउंड।
Can you see it now?
नो, ये बस आपकी स्लाइड के नीचे क्लिक टू ऐड नोट्स लिखा पड़ता है, क्लिक टू ऐड नोट्स दिखता है। क्लिक टू ऐड नोट्स।
Sir, I think there is a problem, technical problem here.
Oh, technical problem there. Okay.
तो सर आप वो स्लाइड से वहां से
हाँ।
लेफ्ट से क्लिक कीजिए, नहीं तो the slide show is not happening, so you just place the slides from the left side, just click and we'll see.
हाँ, ये यहाँ से कर लेंगे।
हाँ, वहां पे क्लिक करो,
स्टार्टिंग से
इसको
सही
बड़ा
आपका
कर
करंट
दे।
लाइट से सही।
थोड़ा बड़ा
वहां
कर।
पे क्लिक करो और फिर नीचे वो 50% हो गया, उसको 100, उसको 70-80% कर दो।
क्या चाहिए आपको?
अभी नीचे आकर के 80% कर दो। हाँ, वहां पे हाँ, दैट्स राइट।
बस
बढ़िया
बस अभी आप लेफ्ट से खेलिए, लेफ्ट से करते
बढ़िया
जाइए।
बढ़िया, बस
लेफ्ट कॉलम को क्लिक करिए सर, बस
नेक्स्ट स्लाइड वहीं से करिए सर।
Okay, so I'll do it from here.
यस
हाँ,
सर,
यस यस यस।
Thank you. Thank you, Chan. So I have done this. I'll start from here. It is said that a good manager is one who can manage everything. In present era, a psychiatrist has to assume multiple roles as a healer, doctor, a teacher, a trainer, a social activist, a practitioner, a psychotherapist, and a motivator. One can be successful if justice is done to these multiple roles. In order to do this, it is required that the psychiatrist himself or herself is empowered by academics. All of us graduate in medicine. We enter medical school or college through the same competitive examinations. Similar competition for postgraduate studies. We read similar books and journals and have similar examinations to qualify the postgraduate studies. What is that which makes some of us very successful as practitioners of psychiatry, some moderately successful and others frustrated ones? The answer to this question is balancing the academics with practice of psychiatry. Over the ages, it has been observed that clinicians who excel in practice also have sound academic background and knowledge base. We have seen it in our teachers. Good teachers were good academicians, at the same time good clinicians. And our students observe the same. Some studies have shown higher levels of job burden and stress among psychiatry residents in comparison to other healthcare professionals. The common issues which we may have to deal with. Now the thing is, ethics versus ground realities. What is taught to us in ethics, what we should do, what we should not do. And when it comes to the ground realities, things become different and always the practitioner is in a conflict. Then there is a conflict with the legal issues. The laws have become more clearer now with the present day laws, but still conflict with legal issues in day in and day out. Then political and social obligations in practice. Unrealistic demands from patients and caregivers. if your telephone is available to them, your sleep is disturbed, a patient phones you that, doctor, I'm not able to sleep, and you are not able to sleep because of him. Demand of time by profession versus demand of time by the family. And balancing this is most important for personal peace. Then time management and management of calls on the mobile phones is also very important. And currently during the post-COVID period, telepsychiatry practice is again has become popular as well as challenging. Then we have large number of stories where there is violence against doctors. And not one state, almost all the states. That is very threatening issue. Doctors have been in procession many times in this country. The factors which influence the practice of psychiatry, number one is dealing with large numbers. Indian psychiatrists have to offer services to large number of patients, as number of mental health professionals and number of patients consulting facilities are unmet needs. I remember when I was sitting in an OPD with a friend in UK, and he said, oh, I'm tired, we have seen 12 patients today. And when an Indian psychiatrist sees 12 patients, it's a very small number. We deal with large numbers. The practicing psychiatrist has to take up the help of quick screening methods or evolve clinical shortcuts based on his own diagnostic skills, or have quick diagnosis based on diagnostic signs and symptoms so that services can be provided to large numbers. Still, timings can be justified. I remember when I was working in the government hospital, Wolfgang Gilek, professor from Canada, he was visiting Jaipur and he came to my OPD. He introduced himself. Of course, I knew him through his writings in social psychiatry. So I said, I'm a little busy in the OPD. He said, when can I come? I told him, you come after 1.5 hours. He was surprised. Doctor, would you have done with this much of number of people who are waiting in your queue in 1.5 hours? I said, yes. And when he came after 1.5 hours, I had only 3 or 4 patients left, which I left to my resident and I took him to my chamber. He said, how do you do it? I said, we have developed methods, screening, shortcuts, how to reach such a diagnosis in short time. He was still surprised. I said, let us do a cross-cultural study. I evaluate a patient in 10 to 15 minutes. For the same patient, you take 1.5 to 2 hours time. And how much diagnostic accuracy is there? Let us compare. You know, these are the kind of things which is a large number and a challenging phenomenon in Indian practice. Then attitude of patients towards psychiatry and psychiatrists. Patients do not consider that they are ill. Some have negative attitude towards psychiatrists and some do not comply with the management advice to them. We all see it in everyday practice. They need to be convinced. Attitude of caregivers leads to delayed consultation and hinders with the treatment. These attitudes are determined by previous experience of the caregivers regarding the previous non-response to treatment or serious adverse events or side effects of medicines or influence the society. as there are many myths prevalent about these disorders. In all these situations, a sound academic knowledge about the illness, course and outcome, drugs and their side effect profile will help change the attitudes of the caregivers. Then dealing with colleagues from other specialties. Colleagues from other specialties like medicine, neurology, cardiology, gastroenterology, other medical and surgical specialties do not have adequate knowledge of psychiatry and psychiatric management. They do not at times recognize the psychiatric comorbidity and also are unable to recognize an independent psychiatric morbidity, which not only leads to poor outcome and non-compliance of treatment, but also leads to dysfunction in these patients. Adequate academic knowledge of various chronic physical disorders and psychiatric comorbidity among the psychiatrists, imparting this knowledge and empowering fellow colleagues of other specialties will not only change their attitudes, will also lead to increase in referrals. Then dealing with referrals. In Jaipur, we did a survey of 40 general practitioners in Jaipur city. We had done a similar study in Bangalore. Mohan would remember that they had positive attitude towards psychiatric illness, showed more social distance with mentally ill persons, suggesting that even doctors have feeling of stigma towards mentally ill persons. Dealing with referrals of other specialty is an art as well as science. A detailed note of the referring specialist will not only educate him, but also bring change in the attitude and knowledge. Academic knowledge of liaison psychiatry. This year we are coming out the book on practice guidelines in psychiatry on consultation liaison psychiatry, which will reach in a month's time to all fellow colleagues in Indian psychiatry. And academic knowledge of liaison psychiatry will help this cause. Psychiatrists working in general hospital psychiatry units, multi-specialty private hospitals have this responsibility. Then we have cultural factors and practice of psychiatry. Recognition of mental illness in Asians is a challenging phenomenon in the primary care setting. Due to various cultural backgrounds and perceptions of psychiatric illness, access to facilities, diagnosis and treatment are especially challenging in this population. Asian culture considers the mind and body as a whole, which has led to somatic presentation of mental illness. This disease presentation and the stigma of mental illness among Asians delay access to the appropriate care. There are other factors also. We did a study on pathway to psychiatric care, which is published in the Asian Journal of Psychiatry about 3 years ago. The number of consultations and the average time which a psychiatric patient takes in reaching a psychiatrist and how zigzag pathway is phenomenal. Somatization, a psychological and interpersonal distress communicated in the form of medically unexplained symptoms, should not be confused with the symptoms of somatoform disorders. Then other cultural factors which largely influence the practice of psychiatry, which a clinician should give full cognizance, is faith and religious or spiritual beliefs. Involvement in the practices associated with faith or beliefs. In the pathway to psychiatric care, before a patient reaches a psychiatrist, invariably, the faith or belief in a faith healer is encountered by large number of patients. Community of support related to faith and or beliefs. And one has to address how these beliefs, practices, and community they can be integrated in health and mental health care. Then stigma of mental illness is another issue. Stigma of mental illness results not only in shame in the individual, but also shame in the entire family, which causes avoidance of mental health services outside the family. Other barriers and beliefs that mental illness can be viewed as a sign of weakness or a lack of self-control, as the suppression of negative effect is valued among the Asian Americans. This is the finding of one of the studies in the US. Research and publication vis-a-vis psychiatric practice. Generally, psychiatric public practitioners feel that research is not their subject. But the fact is that research in their own practice can improve the state of affairs. Research in clinical practice, in their OPD, the geographical area from which their patients come, and how their patients present, what are the socio-economic trends. All these small researches in their own practice can improve the state of affairs of their practice. Proper data of clinical practice can throw light on their practice trends and give future directions. Interesting observations from their own practice can be found with proper data collection and analysis. What is required is a bent of mind and inquisitiveness. If you are inquisitive, if you have the bent of mind, you can produce research from your own practice, how small or big it is. Many practice researches find a place in publication in many important journals. This does not tax on time and leads to insight into one's own practice patterns and gives direction to future work. Then personal emotional empowerment is another issue in the practice of psychiatry, and strong academic knowledge can help it. Many psychiatrists working in rehabilitation centers or de-addiction centers have not been reported to suffer from emotional problems and burnout. Many people in the rehab centers, many people in the de-addiction centers, they have been reported to suffer from emotional problems and burnout. Psychiatrists dealing with large numbers have to have a full control of their personal emotions. Many a times, anger and hostility is expressed by patients and caregivers. It is counteracted upon and leads to negative impact on the practice of psychiatry. Many times caregivers are hostile to us. And if we counteract, the practice goes to doom. Due to stigma of mental illness, sometimes psychiatrist himself is likely to be ridiculed by caregivers, stating that doctor himself has had an effect after treating mentally ill. साहब ये तो देखते देखते ऐसे हो गए. Many a time patients and their emotional needs are not handled adequately. Over-demanding emotions of patients with opposite sex should be dealt with carefully. They may hold the therapist responsible for their undue behavior. It is always better to have a co-therapist while dealing with such patients. Then dealing with criticism is another issue. Your competitors, individuals jealous to you, or patients and caregivers who are over-demanding may be your critics. Criticism should be taken positively. It may add to reforms in your own personality if introspection has gone positively. It may reform your practice if you carefully look into the criticism. Undue criticism after full evaluation should be ignored. Undue criticism, I repeat it, should be ignored. It is always better to respect your critics. Keep a close eye on them. However, do not be negatively influenced by the criticism. A sound academic knowledge can help you deal with criticism related to your treatment plan, choice of medication, and psychotherapeutic practices. Then social networking. Psychiatry involves a multi-sectorial approach. At the same time, networking with political, bureaucratic, legal, and other social groups, psychiatrists in practice of psychiatry. All this category of people, if they are your admirer, then you become very successful. I remember two events, two occasions in my life when in Rajasthan Vidhan Sabha, some member, one legislator was awkwardly behaving. And the speaker mentioned that take him to Shiv Bhavan in the house. And it appeared in the news. Twice it has happened. So if these people hold you in a positive esteem, bureaucrats, politicians, legal people, social groups, it helps you establish your practice of psychiatry. Providing adequate information on stress management, treatment of mental ill, interface of law and psychiatry, role of other sectors in treatment and rehabilitation of mentally ill is of crucial importance. Himself on these issues, one can deliver goods very well. Networking with media and publication of healthy educational material will on one hand remove stigma and myth about mental illness. On the other hand, it will help the psychiatrist to impart his academic knowledge and establish the practice of psychiatry. Then time management. Time management is a misnomer. It is actually absolutely impartial to all of us. And everybody has 24 hours in a day at his disposal. It has to be judicially budgeted, like we budget our monthly income. Similarly, 24 hours of a day has to be budgeted properly. One should find time for academic work, that is empowering himself with knowledge. It should include not only attending the CME, but reviewing your own treatment plans and protocols of the day as per prevalent practice guidelines. Weekly review of diagnosis of inpatient case records and assigning few hours every week for academic discussion shall lead to academic empowerment, which will make you more successful. Family life, excursion, leisure time. Leisure has actually disappeared from the life of people. दिल ढूंढता है फिर वही फुर्सत के रात दिन बैठा किए तसव्वुरे जाना किए हुए. Where is that leisure? That leisure has disappeared. Spending time with elders, spending time with children should also have a place in the time budgeting of any of these areas. If any of these areas is ignored, it may have lasting impact in long term. Time management should be short term, that is weeks to months, long term, years, and plan ahead for decades. Set targets, set your dreams. Dream during the day, and setting high limits is your right. Please be realistic so that you do not have a setback if unrealistic dreams are not fulfilled. This is a chart which I have recently prepared, and I like to emphasize upon balance of 7, 8, 9. We have total 24 hours, and this time can be divided in these activities which I have enumerated here. We should have 7 hours of sound sleep. We should have 8 hours for our professional work and wage earning. I have turned 70 3 days ago, and many of people who are my age may reduce it from 8 hours to 6 hours, 7 hours, or 5 hours, depending upon their priorities. But professional work for young people, 8 hours is a must. If you are doing more than 8 to 9 hours, then you are probably compromising with the other issues, like you should have 1 hour for your daily yoga, exercise, and pranayam, health issues. You should have 1 hour for hygiene, bath, daily routine activities of daily life, and 1 hour for hobby of your choice. I have recently developed the hobby of gardening. Some of you who are interested in watching, you can look at my YouTube channel. Just write Dr. Shiv Gautam Health Education, and there is a beautiful video on happiness. I would like you to look at it. 1 hour we should give for happiness, for our soul. 1 hour we should give to things which can make us pleased, which can make you laugh. That is smile. And 1 hour you should give for service, that is selfless service of any kind to people who deserve. One must give time to the family. I advise 1 meal together with emotional interaction, sharing and laughter with the family every day. 1 hour you should spend with friends, and 1 hour you should give to the prayer, meditation, reflection of your faith. If these 24 hours can be divided, and if we can have the balance of 7, 8, 9, our day can be very positive and very happy and helpful. Then update yourself. We have to handle the net surfers. These days in our practice, at least 30% patients, and in larger cities, there may be 60 to 80% patients who are net surfers. They have already looked at the internet, and they are sometimes misled with the information. We have to handle them if we are ourselves updated with the knowledge. Then prevailing clinical practice guidelines have to be looked at. One has to create awareness. We have to take a leadership role also. We have to update ourselves. And to sensitize the key persons also, we have to update ourselves. I think the last 2-3 slides are very important. One is, I have added telephone call management. It is very important. It is an asset as well as a nuisance. Call management during practice hours is very important. One can either hand over to the telephone to secretary or assign specific hours to patient callers for their day-to-day serious problems. These days, what I have done is, I have requested all my patients to send their previous prescription on the WhatsApp and write your symptoms. And I spent some time to answer them depending upon what problem they have, because on call, they take more time. Saving time on unnecessary calls is a part of time management. Some obsessive patients waste a lot of consultants' time on telephone, while psychotics, especially bipolar disorder patients, tend to disturb the nights. One may have 2 numbers, and the dedicated practice phone may be switched off or kept on silent mode during the night hours. Then secretarial assistance. The person providing you secretarial assistance must be well versed with clinical psychiatry, preferably having some counseling skills, and should be soft spoken, who can address the needs of the patients and caregivers. He or she should have complete information of hospital policies where we are working, our institution, our clinic, our working condition. Effective secretarial assistance can help time management as well as reduce burden of unnecessary injunctions during practice hours. A track of practice appointments and planning for the next day becomes easy with good secretarial assistance. I think I have taken into consideration most of the issues which come in practice, and the answer is sound academic base and a balance between the academic base and the clinical practice will make you most successful person. I think with this, the last two slides, finance management, we are poor as psychiatrists. Our finance management of any psychiatric practice hospital requires careful planning and execution. Finance managers should be aware of the prevalent regulatory information, laws, authorities, banking system, and other needs of the practice as and when required. Psychiatrist himself has to be empowered with the knowledge and skills of planning and execution and finance management as a part of the administrative psychiatry. Then workplace tips. It is very important. I have taken it from WHO guidelines. Trust no one, but respect everyone. What happens in office should remain in office, and never take office gossips to the home or vice versa. Enter office on time, leave on time. Your desktop is not helping to improve your health. Never make relationships in the workplace. It will always backfire. Expect nothing. If somebody helps, feel thankful. If not, you will learn to know things of your own. Expectation should not be there. Never rush for a position. If you get promoted, congrats. If not, don't bother. You will always be remembered for your knowledge and politeness and not for your designation. Never run behind the office staff. You have better things to do in life. Avoid taking everything on your ego. Your salary matters. It doesn't matter how people treat you. Be humble. This politeness I have seen in Dr. Mohan Isaac, and I many a times quote him and his humbleness in all situations. In the end, nothing matters except family, friends, home, and inner peace of mind. With that, I thank you very much. This is the place where I work. The pink tower is the hospital. The front is the other services which we have recently developed. At the hospital, Gautam Hospital and Research Center and Institute of Behavioral Sciences. Now we are training manpower. We are affiliated to 4 universities in Jaipur to train the mental health professionals like clinical psychologists, psychiatric social worker, and psychiatric nurses. We have about 16 colleges of nursing affiliated to us. Students come for training to this center. And I'm happy that in last 10 years after my retirement from government service, we have been able to develop this institution, which has a name in north of country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over to the chairpersons.
That was excellent, Dr. Shiv Gautam. You covered the whole spectrum of the life of a psychiatrist, both early training, practice, need for networking, the importance of public relations, the importance of keeping the sharp clinical skills and sharpen them regularly. You have highlighted the fact that no matter how hard one tries, there will be some issues that might not be very pleasant for the personal image or the personal satisfaction. Dr. Shivkatam, can you take off your slides? Can you switch off your slides? Can you kind of go on to the options and yeah, then we can see you now. That's better. Yeah. And you have given certain instructions for the, or you have shared your personal experience with psychiatrists in practice. And
Dr. Biang, can you share the screen also? They are not visible.
sure, I can share my screen. Yes. So Dr. Mohan would probably have a lot more to say. The trouble with me and Dr. Shiv is that I know him so personally well, and our relations trickle down to our children as well. That if I start talking of my affection and my respect for Shiv,
Incidentally,
take the rest of the evening away.
once of both of us are psychiatrists also.
Yes, that's also true. So, Dr. Mohan,
Yes. Thank you, Vihang, and thank you, Shiv. It's been a great pleasure to listen to you after a long time. I have also learned a number of things. Let me make some personal comments, and then I'll make some chairperson's comments about your talk. Personal comments, you said that you have turned 70 years recently. That's a great achievement.
Just 3
Welcome
days
to the
back. Just
3 days back.
many happy returns, many happy returns.
Many happy returns.
Mahashivratri, yes.
And oh, very good. And welcome to the 70 plus club. I am already a member, so a very warm welcome to that club. Secondly, you know, there are a lot of people in the audience whom I personally know, some of them old students of the man, some of them. And I also note that this is not just a national audience, there's an international audience. At some time, I saw Solly, who is sitting in Pretoria, South Africa, and listening to Dr. Shiv Gautam. So what I wanted to mention was that when Dr. Gautam was in service, and I was on the faculty on the maths, I used to be a frequent visitor to the Department of Psychiatry at SMS College, Medical College, National Mental Health Program, training, etc., etc. That is no news. But what I wanted to say is the last slide, you showed a big grand institute. I have not seen that. Now the COVID has come down. I would like to come and see that place because it looks, you have already said it's a great institute in the north of the country. It bears your name. That is something I have not seen. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Now about your, see, I think the major point, since there are a lot of youngsters who may not be holding big professorial positions, etc., the take-home lesson for them is that you don't have, a good clinician can become a good academician. It is not that, oh, if you're a great clinician, you can write a paper, you can present present in a conference. No, you can do both very well. And what Shiv Gautam said is you have to have a certain bent of mind, you have to have that inquisitiveness, and you have to be disciplined in your time management. He said that every week you must review your diagnosis, you see your treatment plans for your difficult patients. He said you go back to the clinical practice guidelines. Now we have the IPS guidelines. You have also, if you want to refer, guidelines in NICE guidelines, international guidelines, etc. So with a certain discipline and inquisitiveness and certain bend of mind, everybody can become clinicians as well as good academicians who publish papers. He has set that example. He has done all that in his life. But if I were to tell you just 3-4 points, I think he spoke mainly about, not only the academic practice balance, he did cover that very well. You know, even the nitty gritty about financial management of your clinic. Don't go behind your secretary. You know, you have other better things to do. You train your secretary to be a considerate and empathetic person. Number of things, little tidbits which are all very important. But I think what he said more importantly is balancing your work and life. You know, the 3 points, if I were to pick up, I would pick up. This is my personal choice. One is time management, balance of 7, 8, 9. Of course, this is a nice way of presenting 7, 8, 9. You can remember 7 hours, 8 hours, and the 9 hours is 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour for various things. Of course, I would. This is Shiv Gautam's prescription. Maybe 2 or 3 hours can be optional. You can pick and choose. His hobby is gardening. Maybe many people may not like gardening. Gardening is a good hobby, but the important point is the second point. One is balance of 7, 8, 9. Second, if you don't have one, pick up a hobby of your choice. It can be anything. It can be reading science fiction or reading detective novels, or it can be watching news, not news, watching movies. In fact, what I do around you know, the Oscar time is to watch all Oscar nominated movies and make my own judgment which is likely to get best director, best actor, and then on the day when the Oscar is announced, see how many I am correct, how many I am not correct, etc. If you do this regularly, you will reach a certain proficiency that you will score about 70%, 80%. You will also get to see a lot. The point is, pick up a choice to relax so that it is not your work, it is not your academic, but it is hobby. I have not seen Gautam's video on happiness. I will certainly see. He enjoys gardening. A lot of people enjoy gardening. In fact, I was reading a joke yesterday sent by a friend of mine. When you do gardening, your neighbors or people who pass on the road will come and flick your flowers. And then you have to have an argument. They'll say, this is for, you know, worshipping in my house for God. Why are you fighting? But when you start gardening, you will start valuing the flowers, etc. So first point is time management, balance of 7, 8, 9. Second point is hobby of your choice. And the third point, which I would value, is the most important. And this he did say, pick up some kind of a self-love service of any kind without expecting anything in return. So the points he made is that anybody can become an academic. You can publish your own papers, but if you balance your life, your work, etc., and the 1 hour, several things that he said, all of them are important. So I think now I close here and they will open up for discussion. I have attended Thursday musings. It is either Alim or Amrit will look through chat box and say if there are any, I mean, they will decide which are the ones which should be given to the speaker to answer. We can do that. Otherwise, people can raise their hands and, you know, they can write in the chat box, so these people will pick up and give the comments to Shiv Gautam. Is it okay, Alim and Amrit?
Thank you. Yes,
Yes.
sir. Perfect.
Thank you.
So back to you. We'll come back to conclude before Tofan Pati says his final words. Both Vihang and I.
So
I have been.
I was going
personal
chat
music,
box.
so I know the proceedings.
This is my granddaughter who helped me in
Right.
computer management.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's
Thank you from
daughter.
Thursday Musings.
Yes. So I must thank her.
पापा
before-
पापा को हाय बोल देना.
Thank you.
So I was going through the chat box.
Sir.
Almost all the messages wish you a very happy birthday.
Thank you.
All the messages, and especially those who have been our contemporaries, have congratulated you on your good health. There is a uniformly a message saying that it was a very well presented topic and you covered every aspect of personal and professional life. I didn't really see a question pointed out to you because I think you have really covered everything in such simple language that it leaves very little doubt in the minds of people, except one person has asked, Khan has said, how did you manage to impose your discipline on your family? But it's a personal question. I don't know if you want to answer it.
Like everyone, I am an utter failure.
Well, people who know Manasvi wouldn't say that. So there has to be something that your family has imbibed from you.
Thank you very
And
much, Vihang.
it's a personal question, and you don't need to
One
answer
thing
that.
which I have told my children is a dialogue from a film which I don't remember. कि बाप के नाम का सहारा कमजोर लोग लेते हैं.
सही बात है.
Don't use my name in gatherings. Do it by yourself. And I vaguely remember in one of the meetings in Mumbai, Manasvi raised some questions. And then at the end of the meeting, Vihang came and asked him, your surname is Gautam. Do you know Dr. Shiv Gautam from Jaipur? And Manasvi said, he is my father. So that is how Vihang, I don't know whether you remember, but Manasvi fondly remembers that. And then a small little beatings on his cheek. कि पहले क्यों नहीं बताया? You know. So I have always encouraged children to grow by themselves. And don't use the name until unless it is absolutely necessary. And that has helped me to have 5 doctor children and 5 son-in-laws or daughter-in-laws, a family of 10 doctors, and one myself, a full team to lead. And of course, this chief executive officer is Rajeshri, whom you know very well, Vihang.
Of course we do.
Doctor-
So
Yes,
Dr. Siddhana has raised his hand, sir.
yes, Dr. Siddhana, please. We can see you, Roop, here.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Yes, Roop.
Yeah. It's been really a pleasure listening to Dr. Shiv Gautam. And I must say that I've been following his footsteps since 1980 when I joined NIMHANS, and I was one of the junior residents looking at the patients who have been seen by him because of the Hindi speaking culture. And 1989, he came over to my place to inaugurate my psychiatric hospital and de-addiction center. And since then, I have been growing under his blessings and guidance, and whatever he has talked in his lecture, I have literally followed most of them except the 7, 8, 9, and the 8 hours professional work has been most of the time extended to 10 hours, and I have to steal 2 hours from the 9.
Even,
And
even 12 hours, Roop. I know it very well. But
and
yeah.
but fortunately, it has not affected my personal life and my health, and I've been still working at the age of 67, and I hope that I will continue, and I've tried to keep balance between my practice and academics with the guidance and with the blessings of my friends and my seniors. And the talk that has been is very elucidative and very point wise, so that people who want to follow can follow and get balance in life between profession, family, and academics. So I thank Dr. Shiv Gautam for being the guide, friend, and senior colleague who has been helpful. Thank you. Thanks to Thursday Musings for giving me the opportunity to listen to him and give my comments.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a very, Shivatam, sir, there is a very interesting question in a personal message. What criteria decides a good practitioner from an average practitioner in psychiatry?
Well, your assessment should be the assessment of your patients. I always have a suggestion box in my hospital and ask them, please give negative issues which you have noticed here, and the positive issues which you have noticed here. And I've literally divided that paper into two, negative and positive comments. I ignore the positive comments, but I look after carefully the negative comments and try to improve them in the hospital environment, especially with patient care, cleanliness, the discipline management, and so many other things. But the good clinician is one whose practice graph has been going up in terms of number of patients. Your number of new patients and old patients, most of the people who are in epidemiology like Mohan and others, they will also agree with this, that if your old patients are 3 times the number of your new patients, you are successful clinician. If you are seeing 10 new patients and 30 old patients in your practice, I consider it as a good clinical practice because you have more patients for follow-up. If your new patients number is more or equal to the old, it is an average. And if your new patients are more and follow-up patients are less in number, it is a very moderate to average practice. So that is one criterion which I would suggest. Second criterion is your patient satisfaction in your clinic, a small or big clinic. And my patients who are admitted to the institution, when they go back, I ask them to rate the services, different services of clinical psychologists, services, rounds of the psychiatrist, services of the yoga person who is giving them 1 hour every day for yoga, services of the canteen, the food, medication, and overall improvement of your patient. On this criterion, they have to rate the services of the hospital. And I review these services every week and see which is the kamjor kadi, which is the weak link. And that weak link has to be properly corrected. This is what I personally feel. All this is from the book of life. It is not given in the textbooks, but this is the practice and the book of life which teaches us.
If you pardon, I know, Shiv, you said never quote your father, but I'm not able to resist sharing this. He passed away at the age of 91 in 2007.
Never quote means never use father's name for your growth as far as possible. But
till
you
the age of
be,
89,
you are proud son of a proud father. I know it. And we all have inspirations from your father. You see.
Thank you.
That
so I need to share this with the youngsters.
Vihang has made a name for
that till the age of
Yes, go ahead.
Till the age of 89, he was doing clinical work. He would take his inpatient rounds and he would attend his OPD clinics. At the age of 89, his failing vision made it difficult for him to continue practice. And he passed away in 2 years' time. Till the age of 88, he used to be a regular visitor to the medical college library. He used to go twice a week for an hour to 2 to the KM hospital library till he was 88 years of age. And always discussed what he read and helped me or pointed out to me that I should not misread a particular article. So to my mind, a clinician is clinician all his life. Whether the person is full-time academics or full-time private practice. And full-time private practice means applying clinical knowledge in private practice. I learned this from my father and I told this to my students. We have to learn to treat hospitals like our temples and our patients like our gods. And that's the way we seek happiness in life. I could keep speaking, but at this point in time, I could just share one last sentence that it's a privilege for me now when I go to Harvard and get introduced as Ipsit's father. I think that's the reward one gets for clinical practice. Thank you.
Interesting question is there, sir.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are standalone practitioners. Many are not as privileged as to be in a medical college and practice. So they don't have resources, they don't have manpower. And if somebody has a reasonable practice, like seeing 40 to 50 patients a day, and somebody is interested in research work, that's what we were actually trying to gel both of them together. So how would you suggest them to go about it? There's a
This
question in
is
the
an
chat box,
era.
sir.
We are fortunately now living in era where everything is available. The knowledge and academics is available on a click of a button. You can search everything. You see, you have a difficult patient. You can, I see many WhatsApp groups which are dedicated to clinical practice. There are some socializing groups which say good morning, good evening, and send flowers to each other, and best wishes on wedding anniversary or birthdays. But then there are many academic groups which are discussing patients. And this can become a very good platform in today's era. Then you can search everything which you need to search on the internet and get yourself acquainted with searching good journals. And searching for and reading journals should be very interesting. When these medical representatives come to me, it is a 3 decades practice now. I say, don't bring gift to me. I don't like them. You bring a gift, which is a book. And believe me, now most of the people from good pharma companies, they come and see me. I reject other gifts than good books or journals. And I have good books and journals in my personal library, which half of them are gifted to me by others, either by authors themselves who are known to me or by the pharma industry. So we must encourage people to give good journals, good books as gift rather than receiving the commodities of use of daily life. That is another thing which I would like to suggest. And find at least 1 hour a day for reading and updating yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Naushir Wadia, the famous, renowned neurologist of Mumbai,
Yes.
and Dr. Shirish Shet, the phenomenal teacher, they taught me one thing in my life, is that a person who's really, really busy will always find time for what the person wants to do.
Absolutely.
It's the people who are not really, really busy, who are always busy for everything.
Busy for nothing, you mean?
These are the words, both of them individually used. Person who's really, 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 really busy will always find time for what the person wants to do. And a person who's not really busy will be too busy to do important things in life. We have to learn to, what Dr. Shiv Gautam said, manage our lives, manage our timings, and of course, time management is the key to happiness and success.
My opening slide was a good manager is one who can manage everything.
So inertia of motion or inertia of rest? Any way you look at it, there is an inertia. So I
Sir,
think
the question is in the personal chat box, in the personal inbox, that suppose there is a psychiatry resident or a new practitioner, and there is a high load of information keeps coming in and expanding. So how to keep track of the information without missing the essentials through this high volume of add-on of the explosion of knowledge?
Whosoever has written is absolutely correct. We are getting a lot of information and there is overload of information. This is true. But counter verification of those areas in which we are interested in. We need not be burdened with all the information. You can divide the information into important to me, very important to me, and not so important to me. That information which is very important to me can be looked at carefully. Important can also be looked at, but not so important can be overlooked by looking at the headings itself. So after all, the time is limited. If you are giving 1 hour for your personal journalism, that is reading journals and acquiring information, then of course you have to see. Some people do it by author's name, some people do by the name of the subject which they are interested in. They can decide in their own way, but please do spend time for updating yourself at least an hour a day. If not in one day, maybe 2 hours one day, and another day can be free as well.
And in the internet era, maybe 20 to 30 minutes is good enough.
That depends on how much you want to imbibe.
Alim,
Yeah, I think.
today is Sir's birthday.
No, it is not today. It was 3 days back.
Days back.
Mahashivratri.
Belated happy birthday.
Belated.
Thank you.
Very sir. Amrit, I think we have covered the queries in the chat box.
Yeah.
So we should invite Tufan Pati sir.
Can I just make
Yes,
a
sir.
comment, because Dr.
Yes, sir.
Gautam has answered most of the questions, but I think still, there was some question which I saw. If can we do research in a private clinic? He has answered it very, very clearly. See, the problem really is that when you start your clinical work, you have a big load of clinical work. And then you start wondering, how can I do this? How can I, write a grant application? Who will fund me, etc., etc. But the most important.
Mohan, you have muted yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add on to some of the points which Dr. Shiv Gautam mentioned. I saw a question: can we do research in a private clinic? Evidently, the person who asked the question says, "I have so much patience, etc." I mean, all the other things that we have discussed also come in. You need to manage time, etc. But having worked in a kind of a center such as Nimans all my life, and also continuing to work now at the University of Western Australia, which is an academic institution. One of the points that everybody must remember is what researchers do is, high quality research in a very artificial setting. You read about randomized controlled trials. You have so many guidelines, but you look at your own practice. Forget about India, but in other places, but you're only 20-30% of the guidelines are followed. I mean, we have discussed in Thursday musings earlier on how much of, even in the last meeting, last Thursday, where Philip John talked about irrational polypharmacy and rational polypharmacy. I mean, by research guidelines, polypharmacy is not allowed. Now, how do you decide the rational polypharmacy? So the point is, researchers come out with findings, doing research on subjects which are in very, very artificial, control settings. The real world is your practice. And if you're, a thinking person, if you're inquisitive, the observations you make is generating evidence from your practice. Of course, if you just write to somebody, oh, this is what I find, nobody will agree, because it is just based on. So that is where you have to marry research and private practice. Now, 2 or 3 simple things I would advise such people who are lone practitioners, busy clinic. First point is learn to collaborate. There are other people like you. May not be in your clinic, but these days with the internet, you can communicate. So get a group of such similar-minded people with similar interests, so you collaborate. Second important point is find a good, right, and strong mentor, which might be your old professor in the medical college, and need not be. It might be somebody whom you have found during Thursday musing meetings, etc. I'm sure there are out there many people who call themselves university professors or university researchers would like to mentor younger people in research, because in their balancing of work-life balance, they get great pleasure in helping some other younger person. So very much like you look for a mentor, you also mentor some younger person. I mean, you are 10 years into practice. Now there is another person who is only just recently passed out. I mean, if he approaches you, like just now we heard Rupchand Siddhana say, when I joined Nimans, I saw the notes written by Shiv Gautam. Shiv Gautam had already left Nimans at that time. Many of his patients were Hindi-speaking patients. So whoever was the unit head called me and said, you take over these patients. So he learned a lot. So much so 10 years later, and now, of course, Rupchand Siddhana is a big institute. I have not gone and seen, but it will be like Gautam's institute, the building which we saw. But 10 years after he left in Nimans, when he started practice, he invited Gautam to come and inaugurate. So you collaborate with other people, find a strong mentor who is a good mentor, who will help you, and the choice of what is important, what is not important. If you're not able to make out, a good mentor can help you. Similarly, you become a mentor for other people, some other younger chap. And the last point is be very realistic in your goals. Don't try to get Nobel Prize by doing practice and then working with some university mentor. But focus on problems that you face. I mean, okay, how do I manage this kind of a problem? I have found a lot of people, young people with this, presenting with, let us say, obsessive compulsive symptoms. Collaborate, check with your mentor. He will guide you to half a dozen papers. Out of this huge volume of papers, your mentor will tell you, read these things, and then you crystallize your ideas. So be realistic and be practical. You can't achieve, right and public. Don't expect to do big things. Be very practical and meaningful. And with this, I think you would be able to do some amount of practice and even publish. In fact, Dr. Gautam has started training programs in the PHC. I mean, he's one of the first district mental health programs. When after Bellary, we started it, it was in Rajasthan. I mean, you master support from the government. Gautam talked about the political, social scenario where we work. You are leaders. You have to work with a number of people. Even if you're in private practice, you have to embrace friendship with the local Rotary Club. You go and talk to them about the neuroplasticity. Get enthused. There might be people who might be willing to fund a little research project. There are wealthy people all around. So these are the simple things that you can do in private practice. Back to you, Vihang, if you want to say
one quick comparison between Shiv Gautam and Giulio Licinio. So Giulio Licinio set up a journal of molecular psychiatry in 1995 or 96. But within 10 years, he set up a sister journal of translational psychiatry. So all the research that the academicians do in the best of the academic setup with control settings don't apply verbatim to clinical practice. And we have to be able to translate the knowledge generated by the researchers into clinical practice. I always thought of the researchers as the industry of, there's a difference between information and knowledge. So the researchers are the industry of knowledge, and the teachers are the wholesalers of knowledge, but the clinical practitioners are the retailers of knowledge. And there's a whole chain where all of us have our own role to play. So no matter how wonderful researchers have found data that they've generated, if it doesn't reach the clinician, it's of no use. And people like Dr. Shiv Gautam have built that bridge of bringing state-of-the-art knowledge, not information, knowledge to the clinician. And that's your success, Dr. Shiv Gautam.
Thank you very much, Vihang, for your comments.
Tufan sir.
One thing which makes me feel very happy is that at the end of session, when I look at the number of attendance, it is 100 plus, 106.
No, sir.
By the end
It is around 200, sir.
It is 200, 106 I saw.
Abhi 149 was peak. So we had 40, 50 more. So it was around 200.
So at the end of the session, when we have this number, it is success of Alim, Siddiqui, and Amrit and Tufan.
It is success of Dr. Shiv Gautam and Dr. Vaiya and Dr. Mohan. Don't
Thank
thank
you.
Zoom for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Sir, ଆପଣ thank you କହିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ sir. Finish କରିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ sir.
नहीं, तमें कहबन formal thanks. I personally thank Dr. Shiv Gautam, who accepted my invitation with a relatively short notice. And the topic he has chosen and delivered is quite practical, extremely practical. And the comments we have received from Dr. Mohan Isaac and Dr. Bihang has unfolded a story. Dr. Gautam's lecture was unfolding the lessons from his life. It is not in the textbook. Bihang again told history. And Dr. Mohan Isaac's comments, especially on how a lone practitioner can think of doing research, I really appreciate it. First thing for research is inquisition. If inquisition is not there in mind, what you research? That is first thing. And in medical teachings, that should be infused. Then there will be partners, everything, even when there was no internet, people partnered. It has happened. But it has been very interesting. One thing, I think we have to be also cautious about the legal issues in psychiatry. And all the practitioners have to be potentiated about the possible legal issues and plan as manage. Be prepared to manage when these things come, because nowadays they're coming very frequently. And I believe that was included in Dr. Shiv Gautam's initial remarks. A manager has to be a manager of everything, including legal issues. And we'll be having a seminar on legal issues, particularly because how to plan, how to keep your records.
Yes.
How to say everything. Because what are the agencies that support when a person is in? There are many agencies in India who are supporting doctors when they are in issues. And suppose you are doing a post-marketing trial, and who is responsible? Where one is responsible? Where to sign the agreements? I think these things are also important part, because young psychiatrists are there, and younger ones are coming to jump into anything that comes. One has to make them prepared, empowered to go into the future, and that is the future of psychiatry. Thanks everybody. Now to Dr. Amrit Patajoshi for a formal vote of thanks on behalf of Odisha State Branch.
So at the outset, I would like to thank the great Dr. Shiv Gautam sir for a wonderful presentation. The best part of today's program was, Dr. Shiv Gautam and Dr. Mohan sir and Dr. Vihang sir all playing their parts, complementing each other, supplementing each other, and it was a power-packed performance from all the three. So thank you so much. It was wonderful having three stalwarts here with us. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be with you, sir. Sitting on the same platform with you. Thank you so much for coming and enriching our whole, Thursday musings, the whole experience of Thursday musings. And thank you, Dr. Tufan sir, for guiding us, helping us in reaching where we are trying to reach. Alim, the constant man, is always the permanent obsessive man. I am the fluctuating man, but I am, the glue is just holding me tight with the whole Thursday musings. Thank you to all our, spectators, and I would actually like to thank Dr. Roop Sidana, such a great man, such a humble man. He always is present in our programs, always speaks something good about everybody. And thank you, Dr. Roop. A lot of senior people are always there with us. I'm not able to personally thank everybody, but today I thought I should thank Dr. Roop for his presence every time. Thank you to Torrent. Thank you to all our, people who have been with us. We have a very, very, loyal group of people who are always there with us. So the audience, in spite of everything, is at a high rate, and the quality of the speakers, the quality of the chairpersons who are there, everything adds. In spite of me and Alim trying to pull it down with our lack of quality, then also the audience is good enough. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Meet you again next Thursday. Good night.
I take the
Thank you, sir.
privilege of this meeting to invite everybody. We will be sending separate invites to our 100th edition. We'll send separate invites, and please be there. Thanks, sir.
Sure. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, sir.
Gautam.
Good night, everyone.
Vihang.
Thank you.
Good night, Vihang, Mohan, everybody.
Thank you so
Good
much, sir.
night, everybody.
So we can close the meeting now.
Yes, we can close the meeting because we have come in the way of dinner for our esteemed guests.
Chintan, please close the meeting.